Greetings everyone, I'm Record the Second, and welcome to the things they missed in 20W49A, the fourth snapshot for Minecraft 5.17, the Caves and Cliffs update. Now there was no video last week because I was on a vacation and I was only back on Monday, so I don't think it would be relevant anymore to do a video on that snapshot. That being said, I will try to make videos on every single snapshot that comes out, unless it's something like a B snapshot. So yeah, I am not going to review the full snapshot here. This is the kind of video that shows you little things, secrets, or just features that other people didn't talk about in their videos. So if you want to know extra information, you're likely to find out something that you haven't heard before about this snapshot. So this is this kind of video, and I'm also not guaranteeing that you haven't heard it from a different snapshot showcase video, but it is likely. So yeah, that's the gist of it. So let's just get right into it. There's a couple changes from the last snapshot. The first one I want to talk about is, of course, the stalactites. Now, the last snapshot introduced them, and there was a death message when you get killed by these. It was you getting squished by a falling block. Now, of course, they changed it, and there's a new message for this. As you can see, I was skewered by falling stalactites. So that is the new message indeed. And that's pretty much it for stalactites. There's also one more feature about bundles. Now they show their fullness even if you don't have your advanced tooltips shown, which was before you had to do that to see the fullness. Now that is no longer required. So there's only one thing to really talk about in this snapshot, that being the skulk sensor. Now this is not really a secret, but it's some base information to understand how skulk sensors are used in redstone. That being that skulk sensors have different outputs depending if they have redstone or comparators attached. So for comparators, they take the value of the specific vibration, no matter how far it is from the skulk sensor. Of course, if it's in the 8-block radius, for it to actually be able to detect it. But for the regular redstone, it detects based on distance. So the further away, the weaker the signal is. So that's the base to understand these blocks. I'm not going to say too much about them, but there is a couple interesting factoids. For example, you seen this villager? A lot of people thought that these are going to detect ambient noise, but actually they don't. What they do detect though is entities being hurt actually is heard by the skulk sensor. So skulk sensors detect physical motion in the world. They don't just detect sounds, not even node blocks. They only detect something that has a physical motion, and apparently entities being hit is counting, but them just making idle sounds doesn't count, which is interesting to say the least. And there's one more interesting fact about this block. It can be waterloggable, which I don't think is too much of a secret, but the one thing that I want to show you here is that it does emit a light level of 1. As you can see, if activated, it actually lights up and it emits a lot more light. However, it's kind of broken, and I'm not actually able to see the light level that it produces. As you can see here, it doesn't really show. But it does indeed light up. Maybe it'll be patched later, but that's an interesting fact. Another interesting thing about the base way these work is that they detect the signal and it travels to the skulk sensor 1 tick per block. So 1 tick is actually 1/20th of a second. So 20 ticks in 1 second, and these can only pick up a sound from around 8 blocks and no more. So it'll be around half a second that it has to travel, and if I'm standing right here, it's going to travel instantaneously to the skulk sensor. Now, what's interesting about these as well is that these send block updates 2 blocks below. So as you can see, this works now, but it'll also work like this. So it does have quite a big range actually when it goes downwards. It doesn't have to be attached to the piston to activate it. It just has to be on top. As you can see, if I'm going to fall down, it'll activate again. And the thing is about them, once they are activated, they can no longer be activated again. It's kind of like a button. If it's already pressed and it's in the pressed state, it'll stay pressed until it's unpressed, then you can press it again. And I hope that's not confusing. So, now there's one also interesting feature about this. Now, there's no secret that wall occlusion works to block signals coming in to the skulk sensor. As you can see, I am stepping, I'm going to place blocks, which usually goes into the skulk sensor. But because there's wool, it doesn't work. Now, as you can see, it still works like this, but if I place this block right here, it's going to get picked up. So as you can see, there's clearly some kind of bias on the way these work with wool occlusion, for example. I'll demonstrate it again. Placing and breaking the block doesn't send a signal. However, it does here, even though it's should be blocking. So that's one interesting factoid that'll probably be fixed, but it might be an intentional feature. There's one more interesting property that I felt like needs to be mentioned. Lighting a fire with flinted steel does activate the skulk sensor. However, putting out fire does not. And if I use a fire charge, it doesn't even activate at all. There are a couple more interesting features in the snapshot. For example, the hints at possible increasing of the height limit. At least it's now possible to change it in custom world settings. But again, I'm not really here to show you technical changes. But if you do want to see that in future videos, let me know in the comments. So that's it pretty much for this video. Thank you all guys for watching. Don't forget to smash subscribe, ring my bell, and as always, stay.